It's called Advanced Answering Techniques. So it is three professional people explaining to other people how to answer different questions, a multiple variety of questions. Advanced Answering Techniques.
Hello and welcome to Advanced Answering Techniques. I'm one of your co-hosts. My name is Josh. We are a podcast, or I guess more like we're three guys who do a podcast, where we answer questions that we receive from listeners. We answer them in, we generally say, a definitive way. Guys, I'm about to introduce the other two co-hosts of the podcast, and I kind of have a question that I want you guys to kind of ding in with your answer to the question in order. You're not going to actually, you can ding in, but in the correct order. My question is, you guys know the phrase, this is part of the question, this is a lead up to the question. You guys know the phrase, too big for your britches? You can just nod. Okay.
Let the record stand that we both knew.
I wish you had not done that. Too big for your britches. If that were to happen, if you were in that situation, what would be the correct course of action? Caleb, go ahead.
I'm dinging in. Ding. Well, you gotta assume take the britches off.
Okay.
Uh-oh. But what else are you gonna do?
Yeah, you just gotta, your solution is you're too big for your britches. Take them off.
Take the britches off. You're too big for them.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you have to impress someone by wearing the britches, then keep them on.
Yeah.
And just deal with it. Fashion, we suffer for fashion.
Yeah.
Small britches on a big body.
And Gabe, what's your take?
Bigger britches. Get bigger britches.
Just get bigger britches.
Yeah, which will involve Caleb's answer,
right.
Taking the britches off to begin with.
So-
Because if you don't take off the britches that are too small and try to put the bigger britches on, they might not be big enough for even that.
Point of order, Gabe is incorrect. You do not have to take the little britches off in order to acquire the bigger britches.
Okay.
That's true, and really not even in order to put them on.
I would. What an interesting
for comfort. I would say.
What an interesting britches retailer that you go to, where they say, "Well, we're not going to even sell you these bigger britches until you take those little britches off."
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, hey, stop knocking. We're recording in here. Go away. I love you.
We are doing the podcast in a slightly non-traditional setting.
Non-traditional.
It's non-traditional. Yeah. It's a family home.
In that way, it is very traditional.
Very traditional.
Yeah. Maybe even the bed of tradition.
The very grounds.
Yep.
Those are good answers.
Yeah.
I think we've explored that very thoroughly. Guys, we have another question from one, and I say one, of the big three. That's Isaac. Listen.
Not the auto manufacturers in Detroit.
Hey, big dogs. It's Isaac again. Question for y'all. I am a pretty competitive person. I like to be good at stuff, and I don't like to be bad at stuff. So I was wondering, how can I be the best contributor to this podcast? Best question asker, best friend over audio, best general, pseudo guest on the podcast. How can I best crush my competition? Thanks.
And the email in which we received this was titled, the subject was how to, the numeral 2, crush. And so that's
sort of the attitude.
It's the attitude
behind it.
Yes.
Yeah. And that comes through.
It comes through.
You can hear, I don't know what's jangling. For some reason,
Is that, do you think it's coins?
I think it's his 2 cents.
For some reason, it really struck me as belt buckle, which I'm like, what's happening?
Or like
he's got some small britches on.
Yeah, maybe
he's trying to. No, he's got small britches on. He's trying to buy some bigger britches.
Yeah, he's like, I've got to ask this question, but right before I do that, or as I'm doing that, I'm going to transfer myself into bigger britches.
Was that okay? So does that?
I'm going to transfer
myself into my pajamas.
Let me transfer into something a
before we
little
go
more
to-
comfortable.
Before we go to bed, my darling wife, I would like to transfer myself into my pajamas.
I was wondering if maybe he was trying to suggest that he has spare coin,
Okay.
spare cash, that's perhaps an incentivization.
This position could be purchased.
He's trying to commit the sin of simony, buying church office.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, he is stacking his shekels.
Right. They sound like it could also be beer caps to me. For some reason, that was
Yes.
the timbre was
What
like
a-
a beer cap.
What a kind of poetic vision of Isaac in his apartment at the top of the Empire State Building.
Mm-hmm.
The blimp apparatus for receiving blimps laying kind of dormant with dust on it in the background, and Isaac sitting at his counter looking out over the skyline of New York, shuffling a few beer bottle caps, empty beer bottles on the counter, and he's got his phone out recording a voice memo he's going to send to us, and he's just kind of wondering if he's the best.
He finally worked up. He got some liquid courage in him.
Yeah.
There's 6 dead soldiers
Yeah.
on the counter there,
Yeah.
and Isaac's finally summoned the courage to
Yeah.
ask the question.
And his cat comes by. He's about to record, but his cat comes by and he says, "Well, gotta pet the
Gotta
cat.
give this cat a couple pets.
We'll pet the cat a little bit. Okay, now liquid and feline courage.
And sort of encouraged
Yes.
by the cat.
Encouraged. Yes. Encouraged.
Encouraged. Gabe, what were you gonna say?
Oh, I was just going to thank Caleb for painting that image, because when he said he was talking about how good an image it was, I was like, I'm not sure.
Just a guy with a couple beer
I wasn't-
caps in his hand.
I wasn't convinced.
At the top of Empire State Building, overlooking the
Right.
skyline,
Right.
you can see Central Park.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
blimps, you said gathering dust.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, the apparatus for receiving the blimps, I don't know what it looks like. Is a big chute or a big tube or a big clamp or something.
But I
don't
thought
know.
maybe just kind of, put to bed for the day
Yeah.
after a long day of receiving blimps.
So so it doesn't have dust on it, or they
Well,
want
maybe
it to
it's
be
just
dusty.
starting to-
Dust is part
It
of
is
the
starting
process.
to gather dust.
Oh, okay. I
the
was thinking
last
maybe
couple
there's
hours.
like chalk involved with receiving blimps with this apparatus. You got to spread the chalk. Oh no, you're going to spread the chalk now. The blimp's going to burst.
What do we think, guys? Some directions that we could take this question. Really inquire of it.
It is very challenging
It's challenging.
because I feel like it makes it.
Sorry, Caleb.
Sorry.
It seems
I
like
guess Caleb
there's-
has something to
There's
say.
something that you're
Yeah.
going to say that simply can't wait.
Right. Please, no, please.
Okay. If you want to crush your competition, the first thing is you have to know the weaknesses of your competition. Sorry, Gabe.
No, that's fine.
I thought you were going to say something too. So
let's just have a little competition here. Caleb's first idea is Isaac should know the weaknesses of his competition. Let's see how that idea stacks up against whatever Gabe's idea is. Go ahead, Gabe.
Oh, I mean,
What were you gonna say?
I
Comment
wasn't
on.
actually even at the point that I was going to offer.
Well, let's just judge these two comments against each other.
There
then.
you go. There you go. I was just going to say I'm hesitant to put specific metrics on
Success.
question asking.
Yes.
In success in question asking,
Yeah.
right? So I feel like we don't want to. In the past, we have given guidance on what questions should be, and we were still pretty loose with those. They weren't very. It wasn't a very narrow guideline.
We even encourage people to kind of give us odd sorts of things that might not be considered questions.
Right.
Money. There could be money that's a question.
Money questions and picture questions.
Picture questions.
And I mean, that is, I think, kind of at the heart of it for me, is that even though we do commit every episode to giving ironclad definitive answers, this is something that I feel like we might have to maybe disappoint our listeners about.
Yes.
Because I'm reluctant. I feel like that will strangle the art of the question.
So the competition is between Gabe's thing he just said and what I said.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting, isn't it? Because what you said was find the weaknesses in your opponents or fellow contributors. I think Isaac would see them as opponents.
Yeah.
And Gabe is kind of hitting at the root. So, like, in some ways, Gabe's comment sort of invalidates your idea about how we should proceed with the question, wouldn't you say?
If you buy into Gabe's line of reasoning,
Right.
which is let's make the show boring and let's keep people, let's not have our contributors fight each other. No thanks.
Yeah, Gabe has this sort of just to agree with Caleb here. Gabe has this sort of utopian communistic notion of how this podcast ought to work, which is like cooperation and collaboration.
Right.
Okay,
And
okay.
I will prefer this to go, eventually end up being basically the Jerry Springer show.
Right.
Is what
I
I'm
would
hoping
love.
for.
Oh, if I could see Joy and Isaac and Justin kind of in a battle royale
Yeah.
in the octagon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or in the octagon with a lectern
Yes.
in front of each of them.
Yeah.
3 lecterns.
Three
in
lecterns.
the octagon.
How long until one of them picks up the lectern and smacks another one
Oh,
with it?
man. I
Just
hope
like-
not long. But it looks like Justin is oiling his lectern.
He says it needs to be quite slick.
Yeah.
Nobody's really sure why.
And Isaac is trying to get his lectern to drink water.
Right.
And Joy is tending to a wound on her lectern. It could be. I mean, look. That is, I think. What? So okay.
It would
so
be
then-
weird. I mean, that's that's not exactly what I was imagining.
Yeah,
in the
I know.
octagon.
I kind of got off.
The lecterns, I mean, it's easy to understand how you might get distracted by the lectern.
Yeah, especially if they're thirsty or wounded.
Are they... Sorry, we did not clear this up. Are they human lecterns?
No,
Oh, okay. good.
no, but they can be used to fight in your stead.
Right.
They're your seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You put like a hat and glasses on it, and they think, the opponent thinks that it's you.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other
Sort of
lectern thinks that the other lectern is
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So Gabe's idea for what are you gonna put in the octagon then? Is it gonna be
Yeah,
a bunch
good-
of, is it a drum
That's
circle?
a really good point.
Okay. I'll answer that directly. I'd put I don't know, bird or a fish. But
one.
let me go back to the other thing, which was that
Why?
So there's just a bird in the octagon.
you asked me what I want in the octagon.
Trump is in the front row.
It's a bird or a
Theo
fish.
Vaughn is there, and there's a bird
Yeah.
in the octagon.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, sure. I
Mark
don't know.
Zuckerberg is yelling his head off.
At a bird.
This egret trying to snap up a salmon, or that's huge.
Oh, you're
That
putting
wouldn't work
both
at all.
in now.
They're fighting each other.
Okay, you
Oh, the
said
bird
a bird
and-
or a fish.
Yeah.
That was
and
what
a
I
fish
thought. Okay,
and
okay.
or
No, I
a
like.
bird.
Okay,
I like
fish.
I completely
Bird
rescind
and a
all
fish.
my all
Okay,
my
okay.
negative
So like animal fights, I don't know. There's
Yeah.
lots of bad stuff about that too.
Yeah.
But all I'm trying to say is that I look back at our catalog of questions, and I just think about all the great questions that I never would have thought to ask that our contributors have asked.
Yeah.
Like Justin, the other week, or even Isaac before when he asked why it be like that. And those are the sorts of things that I think if we put too many restrictions on what these questions should be and how they should look, we might not end up with this beautiful tapestry of inventive and colorful questions that we have.
I don't think by giving guidance that we actually do that. We actually restrict the impromptu or kind of wild, crazy things our listeners are listening to. In fact, I think we've helped Justin. Justin is kind of in our stable of question askers. He's kind of risen through the ranks. And he started off bad, lying a lot and different things. But through guidance from us, he has become better. And I think that the evidence is actually on my side. That the more guidance we give, the better questions.
That rules create structure.
Right.
You're not as much a... Sorry, Gabe. I'm going to let you talk.
No,
But you're not as much a laissez-faire free market capitalist who's just like, oh, the questions that we need will arise due to demand. Right. You're like, this should be guided a little bit. There should be some central kind of incentivization for certain kinds of questions.
Yeah.
And
punishments for other questions.
Interesting.
Right.
Interesting. So in this way, it feels that we would be really being molded by Isaac at that point. Right? Like because Isaac has asked us to kind of make these definitions.
Yeah.
And so now we're starting to take on some characteristics that behoove Isaac.
It could be, but he doesn't know what we're going to say. We could say maybe he's really bad at identifying weaknesses in other people. Mm-hmm. I doubt it. He seems like he seems shrewd. He seems shrewd. And like he pays attention, and he listens to us, so there's something to be said for him.
He's on to something.
He's on to something. So I the guidance is just going to be if we were in their position, knowing what we know, what would we do to crush the competition and become the best questioner,
the very best questioner, best friend.
Yeah, I don't know about the friend thing. Yeah, but if you're a good questioner, friend thing could be on the table.
Yeah.
It's at least a start.
Yeah,
it might.
It's not nothing.
If you were sending questions in that we rejected constantly, like some people, you know who you are.
Questions we simply will not deign to answer.
No, they're too, they just aren't what we're looking for.
They're dirty, but not like blue. It's like they just have like
brown.
Lots of mess on them.
They're messy and they have some grime and gunk.
Why is it blue and not brown? Going brown. I feel like it should be going brown.
That's a good point. But I'm here to. Can I offer?
I would love to have you
just 3 simple sort of precepts, sort of like if you are looking to improve, if you're looking to get up the leaderboard, move up the leaderboard
according
in our
to
estimation.
Gabe.
This is something I could offer.
We're off. It's on the table. Caleb, you don't. I mean, Gabe's going to say something.
Yeah,
and then we'll see. We'll see what.
And I'm so glad that we've built it up so much because my three precepts were precepts. No,
commandments.
My 3 principles are
first. You just had one principle growing up.
First, be true to yourself. Right?
Yeah.
That we can all agree on. The second one, be true to the podcast. Right?
Yep.
Listen to the podcast. Yep. Tell others.
I'm not agreeing on any one of these. I'm going to wait till the end.
We're going to do
the third one.
We're hearing them.
Be true to your school.
just like you would to your podcast.
Yes.
Or your principal.
There's a lot of overlap in the school and podcast one. But I just love the Beach Boys, and I just wanted to give Bill Wilson. Nope, his name. His name's
Bry. I think you mean Bry Wilson.
Danny Wilson.
Oh, Dan.
Or no, Brian Wilson. I just wanted to give him a shout out to Be True to Your School. And so,
Yeah.
like, you could listen to that while you think of questions. That might be helpful.
Yeah, honestly, going back to your school days and the questions you had there and they weren't answered, that's a good idea.
Maybe that's what this is for.
Honestly, get rid of the other two, but be true to your school.
Yeah. Be true to your school. Really submit your school to the relentless inquiry by bringing this alleged knowledge that you gained at this supposed school.
Well, the
Here.
questions that you still have,
Right.
you know, the questions that you still have after school.
Yeah.
Where does my teacher
Yeah, my
sleep?
after school questions.
Yeah. Does my teacher eat food?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
What
Where-
kind of what kind of
what-
britches my
what-
what kind of britches my
Ooh.
teacher wear?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes teachers wearing, I can tell they're too big for their britches. It's trying to learn at school. wish my teacher would
Get some different
get some
britches.
different britches.
Just get some appropriately fitting britches.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mr. Riley.
But it might be hard to do, on teacher salary.
I changed the name to protect the innocent.
Yeah. Until proven guilty.
Yeah.
Right.
Mr.
And
Riley.
How is his trial going?
Well, it's been interesting. He's taken many recesses.
Right.
So that was my.
He's like so many recesses, and it's like wardrobe
Yeah.
changes.
It's like it's almost like being back at school. There's so many recesses.
It was fun to see him have recess.
Right.
I will say.
What did he play Foursquare?
He was doing Foursquare, and he was using all of the public school rules that we at the homeschool co-op never used because they were cheating and they were actually evil.
Court is adjourned so the defendant can play Foursquare, and he will begin as king.
Yeah, and the line is in. Okay, guys, here's how it's gonna work. This is Mr. Riley with his really tight britches on. Okay, guys, this is how it's gonna be. The line is in, and you can do cherry bombs.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Cherry bombs. Foursquare. You want to talk about ruining a game, and this kind of ties into what I was thinking with Isaac. What good is it when there's just an express way to success, right? Shouldn't it be sort of like hard won, and shouldn't it be about skill rather than something like guile? The cherry bomb. Are you familiar with the cherry bomb rule,
You're saying
Josh?
you should ascend
Can
to
you-
the
can
king
you just-
position in the Foursquare, not simply by by what a judge has commanded, but through your own skill.
Listen,
Is a cherry bomb a cooperation between two of the players that result?
it's
or
a
what is it?
spontaneous call made
Okay.
by the king, the man or child.
Women may not, but men and children may.
And in the whoever's in the king position, number 4, they will yell cherry bomb, run, place the ball in the middle of where all of the Foursquare corners
Yes.
touch.
Yeah.
And then you have to, the last one to touch the ball is out.
Gotcha.
That's cherry bomb.
Okay, I had no idea what a cherry
Yeah.
bomb was.
And it's basically not even playing the
It's
game of
complete
Foursquare.
BS.
Yeah.
It's public school demonology.
Yeah, it essentially amounts to Satanism, and we don't support it on the Advanced Answering Techniques.
No, we
podcast.
can. We've been pretty firm about that on
Yeah.
our track record speech.
And I just want to say, it seems like we're coming down really hard on this out of nowhere.
But if you'll think back to previous episodes, you'll find little hints.
This has been bubbling under the surface for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
So we're coming for you, cherry bomb rule in Foursquare.
Get rid of it. It kind of negates the whole thing that we're doing.
Right. And that's like I said, I think that is sort of, do you want to play a game that just tells you exactly how to win the game? And I guess you want to know the rules. So.
Yeah, but
Sometimes learning the rules, though, like, even football, the rules change depending on how people play the game. They will actually change rules.
it will change.
You mean over
Over
like
years.
from,
So, hey, everyone's using this tactic now because of the way we set up the rules.
Yeah.
So now I got to change the rules so then people will play the game, which is funny. These professional guys should know how to play the game.
Yep.
But they get so obsessed with winning and money that they don't even really want to play the game. They want to use strategy to use the rules to
They just
win
want
the game.
They just want to win.
Yeah.
That's what happens when all that you care about is winning. Is that the joy of playing the game can be lost. And that's something that for us, based on some of the principles that we live by,
Yeah.
Right.
would be an inappropriate way to play the game.
I'd kind of disagree because I do like to see a winner. I do like to see
But what
that.
I like to see a winner too. I'm not saying I don't want to see a winner, but I mean somebody who's playing the game whose only goal
is to win.
the game.
Yeah.
That's actually not really, that doesn't really jive with my conception of what the game is.
Yeah, that's kind of true. I would like to see it happen once just to see.
Okay, I'll add one more principle to mine.
So now there's two principles of this.
4. He had 3 before. Now he's got 4.
Okay, it's 2 precepts.
I thought there was a
and 2
principle. I thought there was.
Oh. 2 of those were precepts and 2 of them were principles? I didn't know.
Right, I didn't actually shout those out specifically. But precept number 1, be true to yourself. Precept number 2, be true to the podcast. Principle number 1, item number 3 is be true to your school. And principle number 4, number 2, item number 4 is smile.
Okay, so more Beach Boys stuff. Interesting.
I didn't even think about that.
Okay.
But there must be something there. I guess
Smiley smile.
maybe
Smiley
try
smile.
listening to the Beach Boys. Maybe that's the secret.
The
I don't
secret
know.
sauce.
No, The
is-
Secret is a different book about some really different stuff.
Yeah. One thing that I was also thinking about is true competition is I think we would all agree with oneself.
Wait, what?
So there's something in real competition, I think, that is about self-reliance. It's about like
Wait, what?
not looking around at what other people are doing and being like Gabe said, true to yourself. And having like a direct line on how things ought, what you believe ought to happen, how you ought to play this game, the way that you ought to do it. And that's a principle. We're firm Emersonians on the podcast, and self-reliance, it just is of paramount importance to us.
Wait, huh?
And so that's one of the ways that, like, if you come to us and you say, how should I be playing the game? How can I win the game? It's like, figure it out for yourself, man. I don't really respect somebody who's asking me how they ought to be excellent.
See, this is kind of what I was driving at.
I don't know, because you're saying it's self-reliance dependent on me?
Dependent on the individual's vision of what they could be, and how they could, what greatness is.
What if I don't have to improve at all? If I can only capitalize on the weaknesses of other people, that's another way to win, Josh.
It's a way to win, but it's not a way to achieve greatness.
No, yeah, we're not talking about achieving greatness.
We are talking about achieving greatness because
just
that's
wants
what
to win.
That's what you're not winning as far as I'm concerned. You're not winning unless you're achieving greatness.
I think, okay, I agree with all this, but I would like to see Isaac go down this path that he has suggested and that I've suggested just to see what happens, just to collect the data.
So Isaac, part of what's going to happen here, this is going to get, I think, quite interesting, because part of what's going to happen is that in order to achieve something with Caleb, you're going to have to do what Caleb is saying. But then your question is, well, what are the real principles of the podcast? Are they what Caleb's saying, which clearly diverge from, say, what Josh and Gabe are saying?
Right.
And or so the one of these methods is exploit weaknesses, and one of these methods is look to yourself to as your only guiding light, as the only thing that can tell you. So you already, as far as I'm concerned, put yourself quite far behind.
Yeah, I mean,
by
look,
asking the question, how can I win?
I'm being honest. I agree with everything Josh and Gabe are saying. I would just like to see what would happen to Isaac if he does it this way.
Identify weaknesses, exploit them.
I mean, just use the other the other contributors, Joy, and oh man, he's so small. I forgot his name. Justin.
You slipped in between your thoughts.
And use them in your questions to subvert their characteristics, their character, their character sheet.
If you had to, I'm not really agreeing with Caleb. I wanted that to be very clear. But just as we're here in the last couple minutes of the podcast, what would we identify as the weaknesses of the other two of the big three? Just some basic ideas.
Joy has kids, so that's a big weakness.
I just can't agree with it. It's absolutely one of her strengths.
And having witnessed, childbirth, it takes a lot of strength.
That's strength.
Yeah, but then it's gone from you.
But here's what I mean. I like the way Gabe took it, but what I mean is many of Joy's strongest contributions are just her retelling us things that her children have said.
Yeah, but that could get you into trouble if someone else also heard it, and so she's sharing only certain things that kind of make her look good. Isaac overhears something her son says that, that would get you canceled.
Isaac, if you were to somehow overhear Joy's children,
yeah,
and to report on that, seems like that would be a pretty strong way to.
I'm just saying, you asked me my opinion. Yeah. Justin also has a child, so do look into that. But
this child really hasn't figured into his success as much. I think.
That's definitely true. I would maybe look into jabbing at Justin's career. He doesn't seem to have a consistent.
And there might be a little bit of a gap there because we had to edit something out. What were you saying about
Justin? Justin's weaknesses?
Yeah.
I would say it is getting a foothold in the job market. No, I don't know. His sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. You asked me about Justin's weaknesses. Not just taking the free gifts that he's given. He mentioned that he was given a car and he wasn't sure if he should even accept a free car.
Yeah.
And so I would say, I don't know how you're going to exploit that, actually. I'm kind of at a dead end here.
It starts to get hard when you think about it's very difficult to think about this as a competition because it's all happening in these, we're not really placing them up against each other.
Maybe look at Justin's tax status.
How?
Maybe you could try to use that against him.
I'd say probably the best way to do that would be to do some kind of phishing campaign where you send Justin a job offer that has some sensitive information,
Okay.
some fields for sensitive information.
Yes.
Get that information from him, and then turn it against him.
Maybe just the phishing is we're doing a survey of tax documents. So instead of having fields, they just attach a PDF of his tax return and send that to you. That's just an idea.
This all reminds me of one of our obviously we're three brothers, and we have kind of a host of brothers. We're not exactly sure how many there might be. We lost count sometime, I think, in the late 90s. And so I was definitely, I think, our most competitive brother is Dakota. And really, you really saw this take shape for him, a real direction for him formed when we were watching Top Gun. You know, think about Top Gun and everything that's going on in there. And he watched Top Gun, and he came away from that, and he was dedicated to becoming a
Flying a
top level beach volleyball player.
Oh, right.
Yeah, there was something about the whole scene that really just stuck with him.
See, the thing that
really
stuck
got
with
in
me,
his head.
I liked that scene. It's great. It's cool. But I just liked when I was seeing those guys fly the guns around, you know? All the different guys, all the whole different way that it works, and they get cool names, and you fly that gun, I fly this
Well,
gun.
they still had the cool I think he still did like the cool names. They still have the cool names when they're playing volleyball.
True.
Yeah.
So
They don't switch
And of
over.
course, you guys remember Dakota's call sign.
Yeah.
Scorpion.
A classic.
Scorpion, and he made his hands into a scorpion, a living scorpion. At least that's what I thought it was.
Yeah, well, that was sort of he was easily confused by shadow puppets. So
What's that? What did you say?
I said
Shadows.
you're easily confused by shadow puppets. So that wasn't
Shadow
a living
puppets.
scorpion. It
I
was
saw its outline, its complete
Right.
beautiful silhouette, and
Right.
it was his hands had
This-
changed
the twitching-
into a scorpion.
the twitching tail.
I saw the pincer,
Right.
the little needle at the end of it. You know,
Yeah, it's just a very long
wow.
fingernail.
I mean,
So he could play volleyball real good.
and look, I would turn back and see his hands there in a big glob.
Gabe and I do have poems.
Oh, whoa!
Yeah, well, so that was an interesting thing is that I don't have one. And I was talking to Josh a little earlier about how I didn't have a poem, and he said, yeah, I don't either.
Oh,
So,
I think you'll find when you listen to the podcast that maybe I do.
yeah. And I think you'll find that I probably don't, but I just might.
so okay, this is interesting because I'm kind of outside of this, looking in from the outside of this
know.
part of the
I
podcast,
know.
and you guys seem pretty competitive about this poetry thing. And it seems like you are kind of, Josh, looking for weaknesses in Gabe and trying to spring this poem idea on him in the middle of the podcast to prove that you're more of a poet, which I think is totally valid and good.
Well, I mean, if it's just about how many poems you've written and that you write them regularly and that you kind of have developed a whole style and sensibility and, have, published them on the internet and stuff like that. I mean, publish them on a website that you run.
Well, yeah, but
that in all of those ways, Josh is a poet. But I always think about poetry as being a poet. What does that actually mean? And isn't it just kind of in your soul?
Can anyone really? I think you've phrased that to
No.
me. You've said, "Can anyone really be a poet?"
Right.
yeah.
Right. It's like I'm not the poet. I'm just a bowl or something that poems fall into.
And then they never fall out. They're
And
just
then-
caught in the bowl,
but I'm
and they
kind
just
of-
stay in the bowl, and then the bowl
It's a-
gets put in a grave.
No, it's a pretty sophisticated bowl. The bowl
Sorry.
gets the poems and then kind of writes them.
Okay.
Puts them out there.
So then this bowl isn't you.
No, I'm the bull.
Oh, you're the bull somehow, but then the poems are getting written somehow?
I'm doing the writing.
Oh, you do. Okay. Interesting.
But all this stuff for the poem is just falling into the bull.
And I will say Josh has won several awards for his poems from my own website that reviews Josh's poems.
I think that we should use this bowl, and maybe the bowl should be some sort of octagon where we can make poems fight.
Yeah. I love that, actually. If you could get a couple poems out there to fight each other.
If you ever get two poems in this,
I'm going to put the Jabberwocky in.
Yeah.
If you ever get two poems in the same bowl, my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Man, I wish I knew more titles of poems so I could come up with a fake
Yeah.
card for that fight.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
The Jabberwocky
Versus the snowman.
I was
by
gonna say-
Wallace Stevens.
I was going to say the
My
gay horse.
Pony must think me
Yeah.
queer.
Or
My little
the
pony.
The
must think
pony's not
My
gay.
little pony.
The pony is the gay one, but
Well,
his
at any rate.
master.
Hi, everyone. Here's something I wrote for this week's episode. It's not a poem, like I might have said in the episode, but it is something that I wrote. So even if I'm not a man of my word, I am a man of honor. It's called I Win, Bob Dylan. So it's me versus Bob Dylan. I ran into him at the airport. I barely even bumped him, but he was pissed anyway. He claimed I bent the brim of his favorite Stetson. Bob was about to wing it on a worldwide tour, and I could have missed my connection, but I couldn't help myself. What do you say, Bob? Think you can take me? He nodded in response, face like a melting stone. Bob's tour manager cleared the nearest table in the lounge, and as we moseyed over, smiling, I said, "You're about to be knocking on heaven's door," which seemed to upset him more than crumpling his cowboy hat. Bob coolly placed his elbow on the table, hand outstretched. I clasped his hand, and his tour manager counted us off. I've arm wrestled a lot of guys in my time. I've never pinned anyone as fast as I did Bob Dylan.
The poem that I'm going to read this week, and yes, I'm reading a poem just like I said I would. Also, I can't help but mention that I beat Tom Petty and George Harrison back-to-back in arm wrestling matches in the late 90s. Anyway, this is called I'm Losing a Number of Competitions. When I was 12, I heard the Counting Crows song where he says, I want to be Bob Dylan. And that made me want to be Bob Dylan, even though I didn't know who that was. It's a misguided aspiration, especially when the guy from whom you got the idea is much, much further ahead, to the point where he already knows who Bob Dylan is. Yes, Timothy Chalamet has beaten me at being Bob Dylan, but here's the thing, so did Cate Blanchett. She beat us both. She was a version of Dylan in the older Dylan biopic. I'm losing at being Dylan. I'm not even the best at being me. I found a guy on YouTube who's being me. At times, he's being upwards of 75% more myself than I am. Thanks so much for listening to Advanced Answering Techniques. We've enjoyed our time with you, and I hope that you've enjoyed the way that we've treated Isaac's question. If you'd like us to treat your questions this way, please send them along to advancedansweringtechniques@gmail.com. We're looking for a file, an audio file, about a minute in length. Right here at the end, guys, we've already kind of dealt with everything. Caleb and Gabe each get one more sentence to sum this all up. Make it short and very, very good.
I love all of our listeners and contributors, and I just want to see things keep on rolling.
Peace and love. Peace and love. I will not be signing anything more after February 23rd. If you send me anything, I won't sign it.
Bye.
1, 2, 3, 4.